Howdy, folks. I'm Drew Taylor with the Daily Drew. You notice a little bit of a different look here today, don't you? Yes, sir. Let me tell you something. Today's my 7th episode. You've got to work. You got to work hard, be vigilant, diligent. But you also got to take time off. On the 7th day, you rest. Folks, I'm going to kick back a little bit and we're going to kind of enjoy this stuff because we're going to have a great show today and we're going to have a better show tomorrow. We're going to talk about why it's important to rest, recharge, and recovery. Listen to this. Let me get around. I'm sitting here having to read some of this stuff. Okay. Throw away this first minute. We're going to get rid of it. Howdy, folks. Welcome to the Daily Drew. I'm Drew Taylor. And today is our 7th episode. And you notice I'm a little bit cash, got my Puerto Rico hat. Thank you, Jeffrey Hazlett, gave me this thing. And when you got a melon the size of mine, I mean, it looks kind of funny putting one of these on. See why I wear a cowboy hat? But anyway, we're going to talk today. We've done, it's my 7th episode. We've done 6 episodes. And on the 7th day, you rest, right? I mean, throughout all the time, rest recharges you. You don't go out and just take a rest and a vacation or whatever just to do it. You do it because you spend all this time working, making your way in through life so that you can sit back and rest and enjoy some of your time. So, folks, hang on. This is going to be a great show in anticipation of tomorrow's show when we're going to have Dino Soriano on there. We'll talk a little bit about that. Folks, listen, yesterday I had this moment where I realized something very simple. The trail will wear you down. And if you never rest, then it'll wear you out. So we're going to talk about downtime, not as a luxury, but as a necessity. And then a little bit later, we're going to talk about what do you do in that downtime. And it is time for you and family and friends and God and recharge and rest and recovery. Okay? So, in the friends, I'm 65 years old. I'm talking about friends that have been friends of mine for almost 60 years. And we're still friends. A lot happens in 60 years. Anyway, listen to this, folks. We're going to talk about the science of vacation time and rest and recovery. Psychologists have found numerous research has shown that cognitive appearance actually improves after downtime. Your brain needs rest. People, this is very, very important. Workers who take time off are more engaged, less irritable, more creative when they return, when they come back to work. And folks, you think about it, everybody comes back off of vacation. What'd you do? How was it? And they're like, woo, woo, woo. You know, we need that. And as entrepreneurs, we tend to short ourselves on that because you got to get to that next goal. You got to get to, folks, I've been very, very good about work-life balance after I read Jack Welch's book, and he talked about GE, 2,500 companies under his purview. He could work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and never get all his work done. So you just have to balance it and prioritize. It's important, folks. Listen, rest isn't reward. It's maintenance for the soul and the mind. You weren't meant to be on every single day all the time. None of us can. Let me tell you something. I don't sleep a lot. I honestly sleep 4 or 5 hours a night. And I started timing it even recently because when I tell people that, because a lot of times I get up and I don't pay attention to the clock and then I'll just start working. My mind starts running. But, you know, I went to sleep last night, intentionally went to sleep last night by 10 o'clock. And usually it's about 9 to 1. So I thought, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to stay up a little bit later. I'm a little bit more tired. Maybe I'll sleep longer. So I sit there and I look at the clock and it's 5 till 10 and I go to sleep like this. Drives sure crazy. Anyway, I wake up and it was 2:05. It just moved an hour because I moved an hour. Anyway, it's kind of funny. So let's talk a little bit about this. In the science shows rest and recovery for people, it just changed. They're more productive and everything else. And so take the time. You have to, even if you have to make yourself do it. And I didn't used to. I had to make myself do it in the old days. But man, I learned, and I think I told you, Baxter Coffee asked me one time when he was helping me franchise, would you rather be in a near fatal car crash, or would you rather win the lottery? We think it's obvious, but it isn't. Because if you were in a near fatal car crash and you changed your life and your work life balance and you gave more to God and family and friends and quality of life, far better off. Anyway, and then finding the balance, shifting from the science of it to the personal side of it. Okay. You can be busy and still burn out. You can be productive for a bit, and that matters. But balance doesn't mean equal parts every day. It means honoring both sides with intention. So uh, let's talk about friends and friendships and stuff. And folks, I'm a little bit of a tough character, and I know that I am. You have to be pretty. I would say that most of my really, really good and close friends, they're pretty weird like I am, all type A personality, and it just seemed to click together. Whatever. It's like Cowboys fans. We can get that's why we're tribal. We can get all along from the get go when think a lot alike. So anyway, we're going to talk a little bit. I'm going to go to this. In when I was young, I've only got two friends that I've kept in touch with out of high school. And a lot of the reason for that is because I'm an adventurer. I've been to 49 states, 40 of them in a motor coach. And we didn't drive to Hawaii because you can't, but we hadn't been to Alaska. But I've been all over the place and done things and climbed the mountains and bungee jumped and I've been broke and homeless and I've had millions of dollars and I've drank $10,000 bottles of wine and smoked $100 cigars and I've given away plenty. I do a lot of philanthropy. Both my wife and I do. We're passionate about it. But anyway, those are my relax and recovery things, vacation stuff. But uh, in 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 talking about where you kind of go with some of this stuff, uh, I get out of high school and I lose touch with most of my friends. But there was a gal named Laura Key. And for some reason, her and I had always been friends through school and no romantic, there never anything. I mean, we never held hands, put our arms around each other that I can ever recall, but it was never that. It was, we'd become friends. Her mom and dad had divorced and she moved out into the hood where I lived. And we got to know each other. Well, Russell spent so much time over there at my house with us that we just got to be the best of friends. And then Laura and I kept in touch a lot more than Russell and I did. And I'd see Russell. Russell and I kept in touch a lot out of high school, but when I come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about what that looks like. I'm Drew. This is my Daily Drew, and I'll be back here in 2 minutes. See, folks, at some point I'll be cutting these and they'll be editing them. I'm learning how to do it, and then we'll have this dead time. But anyway. All right, folks, welcome back to segment 2 of the Daily Drew. And today we are talking about taking time off after working hard all week, building your business in your job, whatever it is that you do, and doing philanthropy. It's all work, it's efforts towards, our productivity of life. So listen to that. The people that walk with you through life, and I've got, we all have layers of friends, right? But the people that walk with you through life, not because they benefit, but because they matter. You matter to each other. We both benefit. It's a symbiotic relationship. And that's what happened really. So with Laura and with Russell and none of us really liked school very much. None of us were really the athletes. I mean, we were in band. We did that for a few years, but I mean, really, we were about living. We were about hunting and fishing and having fun and living life. And so it made sense that the three of us, and the two of them, it's funny because Russell and Laura and I and Donna, gosh, can't think of her name. And that's anyway, she passed away, but Russell and Laura and I are still around. And what's interesting is that Laura and I kept in touch a lot more. Russell and I did up until we had children, and then we lived in different school districts, different parts of the town, and around outside of San Antonio. I moved down to Floresville, and so we largely lost touch with each other, and then we'd run into each other and see each other. We were talking about that, and I've done so many different things in business. Russell was telling me last night. He goes, you know what? And he called me Dudley. My dad called me Dudley. My dad called me Dudley and Russell Banachek when we were kids. He said, Dudley, last time I saw you about 20 years ago when you and Sherry got married, and he said, it was Irma's birthday. Y'all came over. And I said, yeah. And he said, but then after that, he said, I lost your number. I still have your old original number from them. And I said, well, Russell, I've had so many businesses and done so many things and lived out in Vegas and everything else. I said, I probably had a dozen numbers since then, and wherever you are, that's kind of what you do. With Laura and I, once I kind of got out and Laura had gone and had a daughter and I'd had a couple of sons, and we'd just always been friends through high school, did a lot of stuff together. Folks, we spent the night we graduated, none of my family came to my graduation. I don't blame them. But anyway, Laura and I, it was the two of us. We didn't go to parties or anything else. We went and bought a handle of vodka and a case or 12-pack of beer, whatever we got. Went up to a place called The Point that overlooked this lake and sat there all night and drank that stuff and talked about life. And the fact that she graduated high school, because there was a period of time early on in her senior year, it didn't look like that was going to happen. So we had really kind of gotten to know each other and really been the best of friends in the most formidable times when we were young. And so now we get real busy, raise our kids, live our lives, have our careers, largely lose touch with each other. And I have to tell you, it has been just, I posted on here earlier that really one of the most joyful things I've had in the last 20 years was that 2-hour conversation with Russell, just talking about all the things. And then remembering, I was telling him, he said, yeah, I was telling Irma, here we're out there stealing watermelons, this, that, and the other. And I said, well, Russell, I didn't know we were stealing them. I said, the old man just said, all right, hey, Griesenbach's watermelons are ready. Y'all go get them. And he told us, go get them after dark so that they wouldn't be hot, because they're prone to split if you mess with them when they're hot. So that's why I thought we were getting them. No, that isn't why. It's because we were stealing. We'd go at night. And what would happen is Griesenbach could tell my dad that the pickers were coming in a couple of weeks. When they got finished, well, then we could have melons. And that's when my dad would send us over, because he wanted us to get the bad. Griesenbach wanted all the good ones. He wanted the money. I don't blame him. But anyway, I told Russell, I said, I didn't know we were stealing them. And I said, remember we got in that truck and did that? And he goes, I remember putting them in the truck. Man, some of these details I don't remember. He said, I think I remember that old Dodge truck. But it's funny to go and recount some of this. So, and then those are the things with Russell. Kind of fast forward through that in Laura and her daughters and her raising them. And I mean, for a gal who almost didn't graduate high school and, ran with a tough crowd, she led the tough crowd in a lot of ways. And for her to go in, and I mean, just through persistence and diligence, and she learned, she's smart, street smart, plus intellectually smart. And she went out there and she got very good at accounting, went to work for Levi Strauss, and then moved to different careers and different companies. And I mean, set herself up and was always in charge of her life. And just, I mean, I couldn't be prouder of her. You talk about some folks, when you're raised having to endure life and really just not everything being provided for you, man, it's really set you up to live life when you find yourself out on your own. And, that's where Laura was able to go in all the things that she did in life. So another interesting thing that I shared with both them and Laura and I, matter of fact, I'm planning to lead, Sherry and I are going to lead a group of folks, RVs, motorhomes and stuff, up to the 250th celebration of America. And if you haven't ever traveled in a motorhome or an RV, we prefer motor coaches. I've had bumper pulls and fifth wheels and motorhomes. The motorhomes just, the wife can get up if you're the one driving, and I do all the driving, but because Sherry would have us all in this ditch and that ditch. And She can drive always that way, that way. Anyway, but she can go. Sometimes she'll take a nap. Sometimes she doesn't feel good or whatever. She wants to go get a sandwich. She can go to the bathroom if she needs to. And I never stop cruising down the highway. So anyway, I'm going to lead a group. Laura said her and Scott are going to come on that thing. And I was telling Russell, he said, you got to get Irma talked into it. We'll work on that when we got time. But anyway, and if any of you folks want to join us, and if you love this country as much as I do and most of my friends do, it is going to be a blast. We will take our time. It's going to be about a 15-day run. We will take our time. People are going to join us at different places along the way. And we're going to go out and have all the fun that we can have in this country. And there's going to be a lot of stuff to do. And we'll do different routes on the way up and ones on the way back. And people are welcome to join us for any parts of this trip. But anyway, I'm telling you that because it's so funny. All the things that I did, Laura and I worked together a little bit. Russell and I worked together a little bit. Wired that house. Russell was telling me when I started American Graffiti, he said, "You remember I helped you work on those first vans when you were outfitting them." And I did, because we always thought we'd kind of be in business together. But he had kids before I did, and the responsibility of that stuff, it makes you look at that and say, yeah, I got to have insurance and a steady paycheck coming in and have those mouths to feed. Folks, it's the reason my dad told me shortly before he passed. He said, "Drew, part of the reason that I just followed you like I did and I was always your cheerleader," he said, "because you had the courage to do something that I didn't, and that is chase your dream." And I said, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "Let me tell you something." He said, "I was working at that refinery up in Dumas, Texas, where I was born." And he said, "Your mother and I'd been skipped over for being in charge of the lab." And he said, "It really bothered me." And he said, "So I told your mom," I said, "let's go and do something." So we were going to chase our dream and buy an RV resort. And he said, "At the last minute, I chickened out. But you always chased your dream." And he said, "You've had a lot and you've had nothing. You never quit smiling." Folks, I'll be back here in 2 minutes for the third segment of the Daily Drew. We're going to have some more fun. What I'm going to do is I'm intentionally leaving these gaps. If I happen to leave them in this show, it's because I haven't figured out how to edit them out yet. So just bear with me, man. If I'm going to be pitching my business of one, so that people can set themselves up over the next couple of years to be that business that contracts itself to other people, because they say jobs are going to go away in 10 years and you'll be given some stipend determined by the people in charge. And how's that been working out for us for the last 50 years? So I'm not about to leave that up to chance. But if I'm going to do that, I better know how to do it. All right, folks, I'm Drew Taylor. This is my Daily Drew. And this is our third segment, and we're going to wrap up with a few things here on this. And then the end of this segment, you're going to get a taste of Dino, because Dino's co-hosting with me tomorrow. This is going to be some kind of fun. And you better put on your seatbelts and potentially your beep, in case something gets hit. Nah, we're not like that. Folks, the lessons in resting relationships, okay? And we're really talking about quality of life things, because we do spend, if you work 8 hours a day, and you sleep 8 hours a night, that's 16. There's only 24 in a day. So you have to eat and go to the bathroom and travel and commute time. How much time do you spend having fun for you? Do we really sleep to recover from this body needing recharge and all that? I mean, I do 4 hours a night, 5 hours, on the outside. But most people, about 8 hours a night. And then doing the other things you do, showering, brushing your teeth and all that stuff, and you have to work 8 hours a day. So how much time do you really have? So take advantage of it, make it important. I have to tell you, Sherry, and we just have an agreement. When I go and I throw something at her and I say, "Hey, baby, let's go do this." Man, there's roadblocks. There's every reason. I didn't wash my hair. I didn't feel like it. When's the last time I needed, But I'm persistent, and she knows. And then once we go do it, and even if it's just to go sit on a blanket in a field of blue bonnets in the spring in Texas with a picnic. We spend 4 or 5 hours, and she loves it. Did I say blue bonnets? I'm having cedar fever. This is cedar, folks, and I'm allergic to it. But anyway, and so it becomes those quality of life issues. And we get back home and she goes, honey, I'm so glad that you did that. And I know that the next time you ask me, I'm going to tell you no. Folks, but somebody has to lead y'all doing it. If both of you are couch potatoes, and listen, if that's your life and you love it, well, then get after it. I'm not telling you to do what I do. I'm just saying I'm an adventurer and I love it. So anyway, think about it for yourselves. And getting away, whether everyone gets recharged being away. Sir James Goldsmith, who was losing everything in the 80s, late 70s, early 80s, over in Europe, in the UK. And he was sitting there and his wife finally talked him in. She said, give your mind a vacation. He was filing bankruptcy the next morning, going to lose his empire of hotels in the late 70s and the global recession. And his wife said, honey, give your mind a vacation. Come see this movie with me called Around the World in 80 Days. And so he goes and sees this movie, and while he's sitting there watching the movie, and that's when I watch movies, I typically don't retain the line. People say, remember that line in the movie that my buddy Lance is good about that. Remember that line in the movie? No, I don't, But anyway, he sits there and he watches that movie, and he comes out of there, and he told his wife, because the movie Around the World in 80 Days, it was about him getting one more day because he circumnavigated the globe and gained a day. Okay. And by crossing the time meridian. And so Sir James Goldsmith, he comes out there and he tells his wife, if I only had more time, I know I could raise the money. The next morning he wakes up and he goes and picks his newspaper up off the stoop at 4 a.m. like he did every day. And he opens it up, and right there blazed on that thing, it says, bankers on strike. They didn't foreclose on him. He didn't file bankruptcy. He got 30 days till they got back in, and he was able to round up the money and built a $800 million empire that he brought over to the United States, invested, and retired in Mexico. We don't know what God's plan is for us, and never, ever, ever quit. Anyway, so that rest and recharge is of paramount importance to this. So those are the lessons. Here's the challenge, folks, and I want you to take this serious. It's for you. I can show, they say you can lead a horse to water, you can make him drink. It is so true. I have to tell you, I'm going to give a little shout out to Henry, because I've been talking about that. I've been going to this, to a nail salon and teaching them Tai Chi. This old cowboy is teaching Asians Tai Chi. How do you like that? But they're embracing it. And Henry, and he's not Asian, Henry's in there. He's my heckler, and I love hecklers, But anyway, Henry's my heckler. And, so I go and I give him a hard time, and I love doing it. But he's staying up with me. He's going to prove me wrong. That's why it works. All right, so listen to this. Here's the challenge. Take a real break. Take a real break. Seriously, for you this week. Do it this week. And if you're too busy, make a time to do it. That's part of the commitment Hannah and Dwight made. Dwight wants them to take some time off. And she goes, you learn Tai Chi? I'll go to Roatan with you. That's our deal. So anyway, not just a breather, a reset. Folks, you need 5 to 7 days away. And go somewhere. I don't care where it is. But don't go somewhere that you work. Go truly in vacation and sightsee and enjoy. Okay? Whether it's time with family, quiet time, sunrise, sunset, or whatever. Ask yourself, who matters most? Who deserves your time and presence? And what would it look like if you actually gave them your time? Folks, the thing I did, the greatest thing I ever did with my kids, I gave them my time, and rest isn't lazy, folks. Time with real people isn't optional. It's essential. Now, folks, let me tell you something. I'm cutting you loose here because this is going to be 2 minutes with Dino. And I know I'm going to have to cut him off at the 2 minutes because we are starting our own show called STFU, and you know what that means, because first time we met, we talked for 30 minutes, and we never STFU. So I said, Dino, you got to introduce yourself, and I expect I'll get about a 15-minute clip that I'm cutting at 2 minutes. Ready, set, Dino.